Liberals and New Democrats compete to play Santa and portray their opponent as the Grinch. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
All that was missing from yesterday's Christmas in November GST holiday announcement was a gingerbread house, some tinsel, and 8 tiny reindeer. Prime Minister Trudeau sounded like Santa Claus as he announced a more than $6 billion affordability package, neatly timed for Christmas. It includes eliminating the GST on a host of items, some essentials, and other holiday-related fare. And then early next year, more than 18 million Canadians will collect a one-time payment of $250, something the government is calling the Working Canadians Rebate. So does that make our next guest the Grinch, out to steal Christmas from all the Who's in Whoville? Pierre Poilievre is with us, the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Are you going to be the mean one, Mr. Poilievre, in this whole thing?
Isn't that an interesting question? Let's take a trip down memory lane, Rob. Christmas 2015. Christmas 2015, when the Conservatives were still in power, you did not have 2 million people lined up at food banks. You did not have 1,400 homeless encampments. You did not have housing costs doubled, but rising faster than any other country in the G7. You didn't have scurvy making a comeback. You didn't have 1 in 4 kids going to school hungry. That's the Christmas that we bring in today in 2024, after 9 years of Trudeau hiking carbon taxes, funding bureaucracies that block homes, destroying our key resource sectors, and driving $500 billion to the United States of America. That sounds an awful lot more like Grinch than it does like Santa Claus to me. And a 2-month temporary tax trick to distract from the forthcoming quadrupling of the carbon tax on heat, housing, fuel, and food sounds an awful lot more like the Grinch than it does sound like Santa Claus to me. What do you think?
Well, I would think some people might argue conservatives have done this before, maybe even political heroes of yours. For example, in Alberta, people will remember the late Premier Ralph Klein gave 3 million Albertans $400 as a prosperity bonus. What would you say is the difference between, say, this measure from Mr. Trudeau and what Premier Klein did years ago?
Well, the most obvious difference, Rob, is that not only did Alberta have a balanced budget at the time, they had literally paid off their entire governmental debt. Whereas here we have a $46 billion debt that has doubled in the size in the last 9 years. Trudeau has added more to our national debt than all prior prime ministers combined. It looks like the deficit this year is going to be significantly bigger than he announced just 6 months ago in his budget. And Mr. Trudeau has said, and I quote, that one of the fundamental, I'm quoting here, one of the fundamental challenges around affordability is that they would love to say, well, you know what? We just need more money. Can you send us more benefits and send us an extra $1,000 a month? As soon as you do that, inflation goes up by exactly the same amount. But those are his words. That when you send out money the government does not have, what happens? You bid up the goods of all the things people buy, and you have inflation. Some have even called it just inflation. If you want to make life more affordable, we have to cap spending, cut waste, bring down deficits, interest rates, and overall cost of living. We need to axe the carbon tax permanently. Take the GST off new homes under $1 million to save people $50,000 on a new home purchase permanently. That kind of relief would be permanent and real.
Okay, well, on that point, There's politics and then there's policy. And I think a lot of Canadians will view these measures from the Trudeau Liberals as purely political. But serious policy would look more like something that seriously tackles, for the long term, the affordability crisis that many Canadians now find themselves facing. In your opinion, you outlined a couple of things. What does a serious affordability policy for Canadians look like?
First of all, we have to axe the carbon tax. It's a tax on the fuel of the farmer who grows the food, the trucker who ships the food, and all who buy the food. Now, Trudeau and the NDP have legislated the quadrupling of that tax to 61 cents a litre over the next 5 years. Gradually, every year, they will plan to hit Canadians with a hike in energy taxes. And you know who loves this idea even more than Justin Trudeau? Donald Trump. Because he's going to be sitting in the Oval Office calling our businesses and saying, leave the carbon tax behind. Bring your jobs, bring your money, drive 50 kilometers south, and you'll pay no carbon tax at all. The American workers will take all the jobs and leave the misery behind. Can you imagine we had a 61 cents a litre carbon tax on top of already higher fuel taxes, and the Americans have no carbon tax while they're cutting taxes for their entrepreneurs? There's going to be a large sucking sound of Canadian businesses, money, and jobs heading south. I won't let it happen. I will axe the tax, cut income taxes, and other taxes for our entrepreneurs to bring that $500 billion that has left Canada for the U.S. home to Canada so that we can prosper on our side of the border.
Pierre Poilievre is with us, the leader of the Conservative Party. Let's talk about the third wheel in all of this. The NDP says it will vote for these affordability measures, and that will stop for at least one day the stalemate that has been ongoing in the House of Commons over the Liberals' refusal to comply with the Speaker's ruling on producing all the documents related to the Green Slush Fund. The NDP then says it is willing to resume debate on that issue, but only after these GST measures have been passed. What is your reaction to the NDP's position, Mr. Poilievre?
Well, Jagmeet Singh has sold out Canadians again. He told us that his coalition with Trudeau was over. He was tearing it up. Well, now he's taped it back together. Interestingly, this tax trick, it runs out in February of next year. When does Jagmeet Singh get his pension? February of next year. So he wants to get the election delayed until his pension is, he becomes pension eligible. And he's keeping Trudeau in power as a result. This just reiterates there's only one alternative in the next election. Trudeau and the NDP are identical, and they will coalesce again if they get the chance. We need a common sense conservative majority that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
One final question for you this morning. It's on another issue. Mr. Trudeau was asked yesterday if his government would comply with the arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Trudeau said, quote, "We will abide by all the regulations and rulings of the international courts." That's his position. If you were the Prime Minister of Canada, would you support the arrest of the Prime Minister of Israel if he were to ever set foot on Canadian soil?
Absolutely not. Absolutely ridiculous. The Prime Minister of Israel is a democratically elected leader whose country is responding to an unprovoked invasion by thousands of well-armed Iranian-funded terrorists who put babies, living babies, in ovens, carried out mass rape and other atrocities deliberately targeted at civilians. And the fact that all of this, by the way, orchestrated by the dictators in Tehran, who have stated their desire to wipe both America and Israel off the map with nuclear weapons. And you would think, Rob, that our prime minister would be calling for the arrest of the Ayatollah of Iran. But instead, he's calling for the arrest of the country that has been the victim of all of these attacks. It just shows how radical, by the way, and Joe Biden has said the ruling is outrageous. So this is not a commonly held position. He's offside with the Democratic president of the United States, Joe Biden. And just shows how radical, weird, and woke our prime minister is. He's not worth the cost, the crime, the chaos, and we need a new common sense prime minister who will stand with our Democratic allies against terrorism.
Thank you for your time today, Mr. Poilievre. All the best to you, sir.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
He's our expert in communications, crisis communications, and political communications, branding, and leadership. Barry McLoughlin is with us today, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants. Barry lectures at the Telfer School of Management at the University of Ottawa and at the MBA program at the Shannon School of Business at Cape Breton University. Welcome back.
Great to be with you, Rob.
Our time is a little limited here in the first segment, Barry, so I must get a quick comment from you on what you think about Prime Minister Trudeau's GST holiday and the checks in the mail gambit. What do you think?
Well, the first word that came into my mind the moment I heard about it was gimmick. I mean, it's short term. It's just in time for Christmas. It's maybe you won't notice everything else going on. It's, giving people their money, $250, that it's actually theirs. You're borrowing it back, and you got to pay for it down the road anyway. It has all the markings of a temporary gimmick, and it's fairly. But at least he gets the NDP on side. He gets to look like he is taking action by definition. But he's trying to turn the corner with whatever means are available to him, and it's pretty limited right now.
He's also trying to turn the tables on our previous guest, Mr. Poilievre, because now I think the political communication is, look, we want to help you. We're trying to save you money, and that mean Grinch over there, Pierre Poilievre, is going to vote against this stuff. Could that be effective, do you think?
Well, I mean, people mostly see through these things. I mean, I remember a very well-known premier of Nova Scotia who vowed years ago he was going to borrow $10 billion to fix healthcare, for a generation. Well, people saw right through that, blew them out of the office. It was the Liberals under Russell McLoughlin. I remember that very well. And people see gimmicks and they go, wait a second here. I don't think this is substantive. It still doesn't get me any nearer to rent or housing or affordability. So they see it what it is. People take it. Hey, you want to give me a little gift for Christmas? I'll take it. Even though it's my money, I'll take it anyway. Sure, it's not going to hit them negatively. I just don't think it will advance the dial very much for them with the voters.
All right. When we come back, I want to talk about an iconic corporate brand and maybe a misfire or a backfire in automotive speak. We're going to talk about the rebranding of Jaguar with Barry McLoughlin when we come back here.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
We're back with Barry McLoughlin, the president of TLC, Transformational Leadership Consultants, and Barry so often counsels corporate clients on branding and protecting the value of their corporate brand. And I think in the automotive space, an iconic brand, certainly, Barry, I'm sure you would agree, would be Jaguar.
Yeah. One of the all-time great iconic brands. I mean, you see that leaping Jaguar, the cat, and immediately it's that car. Mm-hmm. Okay? A lifetime and several generations have grown up with that. A very good friend of mine owned one of those Jaguar E-type ones way back. He bought it secondhand. It was an amazing vehicle, leather this, leather that, shortwave radio. It even had a place for your picnic lunch drop down in the back. It was incredible. We would just drive around just to drive around. So I realized that they have to upgrade, and all of them want to refresh.
I asked the listeners, I would ask the listeners, Barry, I would ask them, what do you think about when you think about a Jaguar automobile? You think about James Bond. You think about luxury and performance and leather and wood interiors and British racing green and a British iconic, motor car.
Absolutely.
And the reason I bring this up is they're doing this rebrand, and they launched an online ad, and it has this is a read from the Associated Press. Models dressed in futuristic, brightly colored outfits, walking in an alien-like landscape, and it never shows a car. It never shows a car. It's just the most completely ridiculous thing I have ever seen. It's a total misfire for me. What do you think about it?
Oh, totally agree with you. I mean, they've totally abandoned, in effect, their brand and trying to create a new one. Ooh. I mean, you just described everything, what's called the brand promise. If I get a Jaguar, I'm going to be living this kind of lifestyle. I'm going to be enjoying this. I can feel it in advance. I can imagine myself in that. That's all part of the brand promise. And boy, they abandoned that brand promise. Also, you mentioned Land Rover. I mean, I had a Land Rover Discovery I had one after the other, probably for about 15 or 20 years. And that's the brand promise of Land Rover, Range Rover. And those ones, I know the work they put into cultivating that experience. You can go on Land Rover excursions. You can go, it's all part of that mysterious, amazing a promise to the buyer that you can be part of this. And Jaguar has that. They want to be electric. We get it. That's fantastic. Good for you. But you don't do it by abandoning it. When Pepsi introduced the new Pepsi, or the new Coke, I should say, Coca-Cola, the new Coke. Remember that? They had to get rid of it. Because, wait a second, we like Coke. You can alter something, but you better not be changing that taste and the promise of Coke. They did. And they had to get rid of it real fast. So you are right to use the word. It's not just a misfire; it's a backfire.
I don't know if there's anything to this. It's just me thinking out loud. But it's so bad. I'm almost inclined to think they did it on purpose just to create some buzz. What do you think about that?
No. I think that would be jumping over a cliff and wondering, what's below me. No, they won't be doing that. They called it bold, and the CEO got on there defending it and everything else. No, they're invested in this now. And if this fails, that CEO is gone. I remember one time we were in New York, and the president of Escada said to me, we just spent $250,000 on rebranding Escada for a new generation. And they gave me this thing, and he showed it to me, called the new Escada. He said, I hate this. It's as if we're abandoning the old and claiming all of our current clients are old. I said, what about today's Escada? And he looks at me and goes, wow. He said, you can stop right. I came there to do media training. He said, you could stop right now. Thank you. So it's like, the word matters.
Okay.
Old versus new, that matters. Today has a very different kind of promise to it. It doesn't abandon yesterday. And it doesn't say that you're out of touch for believing in us for all these years. So I would be very worried. I don't know how they came to this conclusion. They have to sign off. The advertiser pitches, right? They sign off on it. I'm completely stunned by that. A commercial that doesn't even have the car, that's real bad.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Okay. All right, Barry. Enjoy the weekend. Great to hear from you.
Thanks, Rob. You too.
Yeah, that's Barry McLoughlin. He's the president of TLC Transformational Leadership Consultants. Back with Tom Korski from Blacklock's Reporters. Been minding Ottawa's business. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Well, he's been minding Ottawa's business all week long. It's a great pleasure to have back with us this week Tom Korski, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter. Great to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Rob.
A very busy week for everyone at Blacklock's Reporter. Let's start with the newest news and your top story this morning at blacklocks.ca. What impact will this GST holiday and the $250 rebate checks announced by Mr. Trudeau yesterday, what impact will that have on the deficit?
Very substantial. By their estimate and by observation of some of the figures, it's easily a $5 to $10 billion hole in the deficit. The problem is they've already overshot their deficit target by 17% this year. They're headed for $50 billion this year, Rob. Before the pandemic, the biggest deficit, just as a marker, in Canadian history was Jim Flaherty, Conservative finance minister after the 2008 financial panic, $55 billion. That was a crisis. There were people jumping out of windows in Ottawa. $55 billion. That was just the worst of the worst, following a Wall Street panic. And now they're looking at $50 billion for no particular reason at all. The budget officer has warned them over and over, you're not getting it done, but spending is no option. It's unbelievable. The $5 to $10 billion at the drop of a hat, Rob.
Well, I must ask you just a related question on this, because Adam Chambers, who is a finance critic for the Conservative Party, was asking this week, where are the public accounts? Usually the public accounts are released by now, and they have not been. What do you know anything about that, Tom?
Well, it's been a complaint for years about the untimely release of the public accounts, and they're due, but it's really in the charge of the government when they release these. By the way, people say, why does this matter? This is crucial. This is absolutely crucial. They used to publish these, of course, in paper. They have a blue cover. What are the public accounts? It's been the law in Canada since 1873. The public accounts show you to a minimum sum of about $10,000, but they can go even less than that, where the money went. It runs to thousands and thousands of pages. It is the only accounting a taxpayer has to know where they actually spent the money. And you are correct. As of this day, we don't know where the money went in 2023. That's why MPs get very upset. If you don't have the accounts, you don't have accountability.
Okay, let's go from the Department of Finance to the Department of Immigration. What did it reveal this week about new regulations for international students and their ability to enter the workforce?
It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It is acknowledgement by the Department of Immigration. This is absolutely on the level, Rob. It's under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. It's called a Regulatory Impact Analysis Statement. What does it say? The government acknowledges for the first time that foreign students will cost Canadian students jobs. What did they do? They dropped 1 million foreign students into the workforce. The cabinet had promised that they would, for years, foreign students were capped at 20 hours a week. They could work no more than 20 hours a week. Cabinet promised they would stop it because the jobless rate for Canadian students went through the roof, went up by 2 full points. And
Yes.
What did they say in their regulations? They said, well, we're going to let those million foreign students work unlimited hours in summer months. And that's post-secondary from April to September. They acknowledge this will result, their word, competition for Canadian students for those entry-level minimum wage jobs. If there is a high school student or a post-secondary student in your life, and they come home and say, I can't even get a job at McDonald's, you should know that's a deliberate result of a Government of Canada policy. It's unbelievable, Rob.
And it's a total reversal of what the Immigration Minister, Mark Miller, was saying back in late April, is it not, Tom?
The kindest interpretation is that either Miller didn't understand his own regulations or he knew he was not telling people the truth. He said this was supposed to limit foreigners in the workforce. Obviously, this is not a wishing well for foreign students to get jobs. You can't take a job from a Canadian student and then bill the Canadian for the privilege. It's a complete 180 degrees from what people were promised by Cabinet in public. It's unbelievable. When have you ever heard of a government enacting a policy that it knew would cost Canadian jobs and keep wages low? It's not supposed to work that way, but that's what they've done.
Yeah. So if it was difficult for the student in your household to find a summer job in 2024, I would expect the same kind of challenges in 2025, by the sounds of us.
Oh, Rob, do you know who really gets the stick on this? Is the high schoolers. Everyone remembers their first job. It's crucial.
Sure.
And for a lot of kids, especially you're coming out of high school, going to college or university, you need the money. And if you're a high schooler coming out of finishing your studies in June, post-secondary, 1 million post-secondary foreign students have been in the workforce since April. Good luck to you. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Okay, Tom Korski is with us, the managing editor at Blacklock's Reporter. When we come back, many more things to talk about. The Trans Mountain Pipeline project that was nationalized after the original developer abandoned the project. We have some news on that to share with you. More news about the Green Slush Fund, the CBC, and the government's luxury tax on luxury boats, all just ahead.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
We're back with Tom Korski, managing editor, Blacklock's reporter. He's with us every week. Let's talk about the Trans Mountain Pipeline project that was nationalized, essentially, after the original developer, Kinder Morgan, abandoned the project, fed up with regulatory delays and protests. The government took over that project, to its credit, but then it fell years behind schedule and cost, my goodness gracious, tens of billions of dollars more than anticipated. What is the likelihood, Tom, that taxpayers could profit from any sale of that pipeline?
Slim and none. The budget officer testifying in committee has warned them the taxpayers are going to lose money on this deal. He said it's very highly likely the taxpayers will lose money. But interestingly, he went further. You always pay attention when the accountant walks into the room and says, I think we need an audit. And that's what the budget officer did. He went to committee, the Commons Natural Resources Committee, and he said, these cost overruns on this line should really be audited. It went about 5 times over budget. The Texas company you mentioned, Kinder Morgan, had said expanding the line, oil pipeline from Edmonton to Burnaby, BC, was going to cost about $7 billion, more or less. When Cabinet nationalized the line, they said that they paid about $5 billion for it, and they said expansion maybe is going to cost a little bit more. But certainly, we're in the neighborhood, and they nationalized the line on a promise that taxpayers were going to make money on the deal. I have to say, the number of people who believed that on Parliament Hill was nobody. And now they're looking at 5-fold cost overrun. We're now into this thing to about $38 billion. $38 billion. You're not going to make any money on it, Rob.
Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
That's
there's
exactly.
there's a good job for the Auditor General of Canada. I mean, how does a project that was originally slated to cost, say, $7.5 billion turn out to cost $38 billion? I mean, We're talking in excess of 5 times. How does that happen? Where did that money go? Wouldn't you love to know?
Absolutely. It's bigger. It's more than the defense budget. It's almost as much as the Fed spend on healthcare in a year. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's crazy. So look, in any federal government department, the top of the bureaucratic pecking order is the deputy minister. You have the minister, and then you have the deputy minister. The minister is a politician. The deputy minister actually runs the department, runs the bureaucrats, is in charge of the bureaucrats of that department. So, testimony this week from a former deputy minister of industry about the rampant conflicts of interest at SDTC, what has become known as the Green Slush Fund. What did that testimony reveal?
A former deputy, John Newbley, he's now retired. John Newbley is the biggest captain of industry no one's ever heard of. He was deputy minister, as you mentioned, of the Department of Industry. And that's pretty much a check-writing machine. Even in lean times, before the pandemic, the Department of Industry would write corporate welfare checks worth about $5 billion a year. Trust me, when John Newbley called, the chair of Ford Motors would take the call because he was the check man.
Boy, I bet.
And there was this unfortunate business, as you mentioned, serious allegations and police investigation involving complaints that there were directors of this agency, Sustainable Development Technology Canada, that were looting the Treasury. 186 conflicts of interest by the board, according to auditors. And Deputy Newbley was the man on the spot. He was the man in charge, and he was testifying on this in committee, Commons Public Accounts Committee. That's the investigative committee. And Newbley, it was like he had amnesia. He could barely. I don't recall. How am I supposed to? What? It was not a successful appearance, Rob.
Yeah. Not my job. Don't you love that? Not my job. Not my job. Deputy minister in the government of Canada. Not my job. Not my job. 184 conflicts. Not my job. Not my job. Let's talk about the public broadcaster. We know we know the CBC handed out millions in bonuses while laying off hundreds of staff. Okay? What assurances has the Heritage Minister offered that won't happen again?
None whatsoever. In fact, the Commons Heritage Committee voted, and this is unanimous. Even government caucus members voted for this. No more bonus time for the executives at the CBC while you are laying off people, sinking in the ratings, and losing advertisers. The ad revenue down 10% last year on English television. The committee voted unanimously. No more bonus time. Bonuses at least $15 million a year. Asked if she would comply with the committee order. The Minister of Heritage said no comment. I'm not going to. I don't.
No comment. Okay.
I don't have time for the little people because the CBC is essential to, as the life-giving broadcaster that it is. It's absolutely essential to Canada. Rob, the CBC is in so much trouble on Parliament Hill. I know, we just described Deputy Newbley. Everyone knows that accountability dies in Ottawa. But the fate of the CBC and their audience of one, the Minister of Heritage who signs the checks, is not looking good.
Okay, very quickly. With great fanfare, the Trudeau Liberals moved ahead with a tax the rich measure, their select luxury items tax. As part of that tax, they put a special levy on high-end boats. I mean, nice boats. Boats that $250,000 or more. So big price tag on those boats. How's that going? Is it bringing in the kind of revenue that they expected? Has it had an impact on the sales of those watercraft, Tom? What do you know?
Interesting anecdote for anyone who is a fan of an advocate of soaking the rich. New boat registrations went down by 25%. Manufacturers had told them the luxury tax won't work. Why is that? Because you don't have to buy a boat that's made in Canada. You can buy one that's made in Seattle or in New York or in Cincinnati. And that's exactly what happened. The effect of the 10% luxury tax on $250,000 boats merely cost boat makers jobs in Canada and drove customers to the United States. And that's the problem with luxury taxes. People who have the money for the boat have the money to hire an accountant to get really good tax advice.
Very good material this week, Tom Korski. Thank you so much. Always great to hear from you. Thank you for minding Ottawa's business.
Thank you, Rob.
Speak soon. Yep. Managing editor, Black Locks reporter, minding Ottawa's business. Aren't you glad somebody is? That's Tom Korski.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Here with David Smith on a Friday. David, we made it.
Yes, we did.
Made it to Friday.
It's payday, too.
That's kind of Friday, isn't it, David?
Oh, yeah.
You have that money in the bank for like 3 hours. It's like the best feeling ever.
Oh, yeah. Mine's already gone.
Yep. Thank goodness this $250 is about to hit the bank account, too. The Trudeau government, I just spent just the other day the last of my grocery rebate.
Oh yeah,
remember the grocery rebate, Dave, of June of last year? That was the last time grocery store was when he was announcing the grocery rebate.
That's right, I remember that.
Anyway, we do have a lot to say about that. Hopefully, with your help, coming up on the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. That's coming up right after the news at the top of the hour. We love Fridays around here. Look, if you're ever looking for a podcast of the show, now you know with Rob Snow, we have a new mobile app that will help you hear our show, and you can listen when you want to at your leisure. It is called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, Seekr. All kinds of exclusive audio you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. Seeker, spelled Seekr. And now you know with Rob Snow is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Every Friday, David and I have a we have a Zoom meeting with the boss.
Yes.
Teams
Yeah.
meeting with the boss. Eh? And David's in Ottawa. I'm in my home studio in the wilds of rural Quebec. And the boss is in Calgary. Our boss is in Calgary. So we all meet virtually every Friday. And I said, I hear you're having a bit of a wintry spell in Calgary. And he turned his phone around and we were both shocked.
Yeah,
right.
Was,
like how snowy it was.
It was jarring. I didn't care
crazy,
for it at
right?
all. I didn't like how it made
was
me
jarring.
feel.
No. And the thing is, they're under a snowfall warning now in Calgary.
Again,
our poor
today.
friends in Calgary.
Yeah. What is it? 15 to 25.
Yeah. And it's
Oh,
minus 11 there right now.
Yep.
It's minus 11 there right now. So they're going to get, throughout the day, 5 to 10 centimeters, Dave. And the temperature is going to hold steady around minus 12 with a wind chill of minus 19. And then another 10 to 15 tomorrow. So like they are in, it's not even December yet, and they are just in the throes of it. And I guess the roads, the public transit, it's all just crazy.
Yeah, it sounds
Crazy
like a bit
right
of a
now.
gong
It's very
show
hard to get around
with the buses, and they don't plow the streets there, I guess, the same way they plow them here. And anyway,
well, he was saying, well, they just wait for it to melt, right? Or Chinook could come in and be 22 degrees the next day,
which works
but
great.
I don't see anything like that in the
unless it doesn't
I don't see
melt.
anything like that in their near-term forecast. Though I just see winter. Right? Okay.
Exactly.
So look, lots to talk about. Friday free for all Talkback.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today it is the Friday free for all. Our favorite day of the week around here. We don't come up with the topics. We've been doing that all week. So today it's your turn. Come up with a topic. We'll follow your lead at 1-833-668-2577. What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind? Is there something that has been in the news that you want to comment on? Go for it. Is there something that you think should be in the news? You can raise it here, whatever it happens to be. Within reason, we're usually good to go. No shortage of material to work with this week. It's been a very busy week in the news business. I think, without a doubt, the news story that prompted the most reaction from our callers this week was yesterday's news about the 2-month holiday break on the GST. On that long list of items, I guess some could be considered essentials, others, well, not so much. And then sometime in the new year, people who earn up to $150,000 in net income will get $250 from the Trudeau Liberals. That money is going to go out to about 18 million Canadians. It's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, all of these measures. It's more than $6 billion for what the government is pitching as affordability measures. We took a lot of calls on this yesterday. Phone lines were jammed on that yesterday for pretty much the entire 2 hours. But if you didn't get a chance to sound off on that yesterday, there's every opportunity for you to do so today at 1-833-668-2577. I mean, I'd really love to know what you think about it. We've had, a day to think about it and take it in. I have to say it's getting a pretty rough ride in some of the papers today that I've read. But it's not like Justin Trudeau's the only politician using taxpayers' money to bribe voters, or the only politician offering what could be called populist measures to try and win over the electorate. Doug Ford is doing the same thing in Ontario. I think Tim Houston is doing the same thing in Nova Scotia. The difference is both of those premiers are on track to score easy election wins. Justin Trudeau, well, the jury's out on that. So if you have an opinion on that, love to get right back into that topic with you again today. What else? 33 days to go until Christmas Day. You remember when you were a kid, count down the days until Christmas, 33 days until the wrapping paper starts to fly. Well, here's the thing, 33 days to go until Christmas, and the workers at Canada Post are on strike. Now, I received a statement from the Canada Post management this morning, along with every other member of the Canadian news media, And I might point out this is the first time I've ever received this kind of statement from Canada Post directly outlining what management sees as the company's financial position. And to put it bluntly, it is quite dire. Canada Post lost, it says, $315 million in the third quarter, $315 million. And through the first 9 months of this year, it has lost $345 million, which is actually better than last year, because last year, through the first 9 months of the year, Canada Post lost $650 million. But that's not because there was any kind of turnaround or improvement in business conditions. The reason the loss was narrowed is because Canada Post sold off some business units. It sold off something called the SCI Group, which is some kind of logistics company. It sold off something called Innova Post, which is some kind of IT company. They sold that to Deloitte. So without the sale of those assets, the loss through the first 9 months of the year would have been much, much higher than what was revealed today. Here's the cold, hard truth. Every day that Canada Post was open for business in the third quarter, it lost $3.5 million every single day. And the workers are on strike, and they have rejected an offer that would give them an 11.5% raise over 4 years. Canada Post said today it's getting taken to the cleaners on the parcel delivery business, and there's no end in sight. There's no end in sight. The two sides have been meeting separately with a mediator, but there hasn't been a big breakthrough yet. And this is bad for business. It's really bad for small businesses. It's bad for seniors who still rely on Canada Post. So, I would ask you again today, should anything be done here? Is it time for the government to step in, put an end to it, get the people back to work? I mean, it could do that. It could order binding arbitration just like it did with the port workers and the railroaders. It could end this today, really, if it wanted to. Or do you think absolutely not? The government should stay out of this, because the only real leverage that these workers have to put pressure on their employer is the very fact that it's 33 days before Christmas, the busiest time of year for Canada Post. And that's why they're on strike, and it's a totally legal strike. And the right to strike is a constitutionally protected right. If you'd care to share a thought on that at 1-833-668-2577. It's the Friday free-for-all Talkback Hour. I'm Rob Snow. We'll get things going right after this when we come back.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday free-for-all today. Open line, open topic. Chris in Martins Point, Nova Scotia. Chris, you're on the air. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Chris. What's on your mind?
Just the state of this country and why we're here and what I believe needs to be done to get us out of it. Canada is in real trouble. I don't think the average person realizes how much trouble this country's in. Our GDP is in the toilet. Our Canadian dollar is just it's miserable. Our debt is just growing and growing and growing. We have a myriad of problems. Every policy that the government seems to have enacted is a complete and utter failure. We're swimming around pilotless, and I believe that the only way we're going to get out of this and stay out of this is our political system in this country as we know it. We need to have sweeping reforms. There needs to be. They're absolutely crucial that there is accountability, which right now there is absolutely none. The ethics commissioner, I mean, that's pretty. That's pretty. It's like chrome on a car. It's pretty, but it doesn't serve a function, nor does it improve the efficiency of that vehicle. There's no teeth there. Like, there's been so many ethics violations, so many scandals.
Sure.
Yeah, and nothing.
Well, let's just talk about that for a second. Let's just talk about that if I could just interrupt there. I mean, let's think about how that whole office is even set up. Who appoints the ethics commissioner?
The very ones that are supposed to be overseeing.
Well, he serves at the pleasure of the prime minister, whoever it happens to be, right?
Exactly.
So is that an appropriate process?
That is so inappropriate.
Or is that a banana republic process?
Well,
now when somebody is in violation of the ethics laws in this country, what's the penalty?
I have no idea, Rob. I have no idea.
It's a fine of a few $100s. It's a fine of a few $100s, and then they go on their way.
There's no teeth to it. That's what I'm saying.
There's no teeth to it.
Nothing.
The ethics commissioner should not be appointed by the Prime Minister. It should be appointed by Parliament. It should answer to Parliament and not the Prime Minister.
Exactly. I mean, having the sitting Prime Minister appoint an ethics commissioner is like letting the fox guard the hen house. It doesn't work.
Of course.
It's not working.
And if if there is a violation of the ethics law, then should there not be some kind of severe sanction for that? Like the inability to just say, I don't know, run for re-election or something like that would seem to me.
There needs to be, because otherwise, without any deterrent, it's like anything else. Without any deterrent, you're never going to change the behavior. It's just going to keep cycling through. It's the same as the Auditor General. Who's taking the Auditor General seriously? I mean, the alarm bells have been raised so many times now for so long, and we're just sinking deeper and deeper in debt. And what is the current government solution? Well, let's see if we can buy some popularity by giving the people back their own money. How is that, like a sane, rational human being is going to look at that and say, "What is this? Is a card trick. This is like that little shell game that they have at the fair."
All right, look, I've got a lot of phone calls. I got you, Chris. I got a lot of phone calls to get to, so I'm going to have to wrap it up there for today. I appreciate your call. Cheer up, buddy. Cheer up. Eric in Halifax. Eric, you're on the air. What's on your mind today, Eric?
I've been waiting for a week to discuss this particular situation. You know, and a lot of my listeners out there know that I only deal with sports. I can't get caught up in all the hoopla that's going on. But if somebody came to me and gave me a few bucks, I would vote for him or her in a country minute. Now, what happened last week? You tell me what happened last week against Winnipeg and Toronto, and then I will give you my side.
Well, I would say the Toronto defense certainly showed up, played a very good game. The Toronto quarterback, the backup quarterback, Arbuckle, exceeded expectations, and Zach Collaros, who has looked so great and has taken this team so far, may be starting to develop a reputation as someone who can't get it done when it matters most. That would be my take on the Grey Cup. Okay, then there was actually 4 things that I was going to mention. They didn't. All right, well, let's get to them very quickly.
The opportunities for what he'd done in the season. Oliveira never got a chance. They cornered him like you put him up against the wall. And the receiver that they depend upon, he never got nowheres. And like you said at the top of this conversation, the Toronto defense was the nail clincher for Toronto. I mean, I watched the game. The finger didn't have nothing to do with it. I mean, it didn't look all that great when he walked off, but when he came back with the glove, I don't think you could use that for an excuse. But next year, the Grey Cup is in Winnipeg, and you could take this to the bank. Winnipeg will win the Grey Cup in Winnipeg next year. Have a nice day, Rob.
Well, thank you. We can talk about that next year. I do quite love the CFL. We're so close to Ottawa, CFL town, so I follow it quite closely. I love football. I'll watch any kind of football, really. Chris in Calgary, you're on the air. Chris, what's on your mind today, Chris?
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Chris.
Love your show, by the way.
What do you want to talk about? Thank you.
Well, Fridays, like you talk about anything, right? So I just wanted to say, growing up in Calgary, and I wasn't into the politics scene so much until my later years here, because I just can't believe what our government's doing. All the spending that they do and the spending that they do, like that cricket farm, they spent $8 million on that, thinking that people will eat protein. I don't get it. Then they spend $9 million on a condo in Manhattan. for the consul to live there, which I think is an extraordinarily expensive condo to own. And the SNC-Lavalin
It is, but I understand this. Okay, look, I don't know. There are a lot of things this government does that I don't agree with, okay? I think, look, and you hear $9 million in Manhattan, Billionaires Row, all of this stuff. They already have a condo there. They're selling the condo. They're making money on us. And whatever money they make on it is pretty much going to cover the cost of this new condo that they have in New York. Now, don't you think the government of Canada should have a presence in the financial capital of the world to promote Canada's interests? And if you do, where are you going to put that person? Where are you going to put that person? Are you going to put them in, I don't know, Staten Island, Long Island, whatever, right? You have to be where the action is, do you not?
Well, I don't think that particular condo, I know Manhattan's expensive in New York. We've been there. Beautiful properties, but they probably could be something a little bit less.
Sure.
It's just all the spending that they do. And then they, they give us, they're going to reduce the GST. And maybe for some people that might help, but everything is so expensive that you can go buy only 1 or 2 bags of groceries nowadays and it still costs you like $175. It's expensive. So I just don't agree with all their stuff. They're drowning us in debt, and I don't know. It's frustrating.
It's very
That's
frustrating.
What I wanted to say.
Yes, it is.
And I wish we could have an election.
I'm glad you called. Have you ever called before?
No, I haven't. This is my first time.
You haven't. Well, I hope it won't be your last.
No, I love your show. I'm addicted to it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And let me ask you one quick question before you run there. You're in Calgary, right?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, are you used to this weather in Calgary that you're getting right now? I mean, winter in the third week of November, like it's brutal.
It is. And I mean, I'm surprised we didn't get it earlier because I lived in Calgary all my life. And I remember a lot of times, even at Halloween when the kids were little, we'd have some brutal winters already. So to me, this is really, we've had such a dry summer and spring that, and a fall that was so beautiful. This is kind of like, wow, all of a sudden, but we're going to get it because usually December, January, and February can be very, very cold.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, no
Good
problem.
to hear from you.
Thanks.
Friday, free for all. Talk back hour. That's first time caller Chris in Calgary. Be right back.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Friday, free for all talk back. Mike in Kincardine, you're on the air, sir. What's on your mind today, Mike?
I'd like to talk about the Canada Post strike there.
Okay.
I think regardless of what settlement is reached or what wage increase they get, Canada Post is going to have to reform itself. I live in a rural area near Point Clark, Ontario, even though my address is Kincardine, Ontario. And years ago, we didn't have UPS, FedEx, Canpar, Purelator, and everybody else delivering up here, including Dragonfly. But now they're delivering to the rural areas. They deliver on Saturdays, they deliver on Sundays,
yes,
they deliver on holidays and stuff like that, right? So, at least in our rural area up here, there isn't the reliance on Canada Post as there once was. And they're going to need to look at how they are going to be competitive against these other delivery services, and as well as delivering the mail. And I realize that seniors rely on Canada Post. I realize that small northern communities rely on Canada Post, and they're in a no-win situation because they're mandated to deliver there. But I think the union and the company is going to have to look at themselves and reform themselves, restructure themselves, because they can't operate like a 20th century company in the 21st century. And those are my thoughts, Rob. I don't see them surviving.
Well, you just can't. I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you're saying, Mike. I agree wholeheartedly with everything you're saying as someone who also lives in in a rural area and does get packages delivered from time to time by those smaller courier companies, as you mentioned, in addition to Canada Post. And just how sustainable is this for this company? You just can't open for business every day and lose $3.5 million. It just can't continue. There comes a point where you just hit a wall and you say something has to be done here. Back right after the news with more of your calls. Friday Free for All Talkback Hour on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Today is the Friday Free for All, so we follow your lead. Whatever you want to talk about, bring it up here. 1-833-668-2577. Steve in Calgary, you're on the air. What do you want to talk about, Steve?
You know, a couple of weeks ago, I came on here and said Trump would win by a significant margin. And then I lost $50.
Congratulations.
Then I lost $50 on Tyson. But am I worried? No, because I just got a solid tip on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, so I'm predicting good things here. That's why I listen to AM radio. Okay, so here's the thing regarding the post office.
Yes.
The bottom line is, if it was a private company like Sears, it would just die a natural death. But because the government is involved, they won't allow it. But if the post office went away, they would do what they did with Greyhound bus lines. In rural settings, the government would literally subsidize Greyhound so that they had some sort of transportation on unprofitable routes. So if I were the government, and I'm not, I would let it die off naturally in the areas that aren't productive. I would sell off those assets, and then I would simply say to private couriers, we will subsidize you to send out the mail. And that would stop the bleeding. But the problem is, and this is what I've never understood, when Sears went under, what happened to all their pensions? Now, if you got rid of the post office today, you can't just cut everyone's pension off, or can you, like Sears did? Because that cost would still be there, but you wouldn't.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that. Of course, when Sears went out of business, the same with Nortel, the pensioners were very hard done by, right?
Right. But what I'm saying is, if you still got to pay these guys their pensions, but now you're not getting any productivity out of them. So does it make sense to get rid of it and get no productivity? That's part of the business plan that I don't know anything about. Anyways, my thoughts.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. Good to hear from you. Matt in Calgary. I think Matt also wants to talk about Canada Post. Go ahead, Matt. What are your thoughts here?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Do you happen to know offhand what the budget for Canada Post is every year?
Don't know what the budget is. No, I don't.
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, it's not like a government department. If I could just interrupt, Steve, it's not like a government department. It's not like they say to the Department of Industry, this is your budget for this year. Canada Post doesn't operate like that. The Canada Post operations are funded by the revenue that's generated by the sale of its product and its services. It's not funded by the taxpayers. It's funded by the sale of stamps and what people pay for delivery and what businesses pay to deliver junk mail and this kind of thing. That's how Canada Post is funded. It's not funded through tax dollars.
Oh, see, okay. I was under that misconception, and obviously thanks for clearing that up. Well, how do they get the funding? Like, they're operating at a loss. How do they cover that every year?
Well, I don't know how they're covering that every year. It's not, I will tell you this. It's not like, well, we lost whatever we lost in the third quarter, $315 million. It's not like the government is coming along and saying, well, here's an extra $315 million to cover your losses. That's not happening.
Oh, okay. And that was the misconception that I was under. Like, I thought it was our taxpayers' dollars paying off the difference. Okay, so part of my argument is invalid, but so how long can a business under CRA operate at a loss? Any private business operates at a loss for 3 years, they force you to dissolve it, do they not? Like if you're not generating a profit?
They say that, well, they said that they would run out of operational funding within a year. That's what the CEO went to Parliament, to a committee, and said, if things keep going like this, we will be out of money within a year.
Okay. So
that's what they said.
So if they're not generating enough revenue, why not just let them dissolve or completely mitigate their whole model? Because like your prior caller, a couple of callers ago, was saying that all these couriers deliver to these rural areas now. And full disclosure, I work for one of those courier companies that he mentioned. I just won't label which one it was. But like we go to those rural areas and service all those areas. And we're a private company. We operate at a profit. I don't know how Canada Post can't.
Well, it's wages, it's benefits, pensions, probably maybe the age of the fleet of the vehicles. I don't know. A lot of Canada Post vehicles that I see on the road they're not the newest vehicles that I've seen. We had Professor Lee on, who has studied Canada Post, who did his thesis on Canada Post and teaches at a business school at Carleton University. Wrote a 36-page report that he sent me this week about Canada Post. And he said, when you take the driver, the vehicle, and the fuel, it costs between $50 and $60 an hour for that Canada Post person to deliver a parcel.
Okay. And
now, how much do you figure it costs you? Now, what would you say? What would you say your hourly operating costs are? Do you think it's $60 an hour?
No, but I'm different because I'm not an hourly employee. I'm an owner operator, so it's my truck, my fuel, my everything. So
right.
See, for me, I get paid the same as long as I get all the job done, regardless if I do it in 3 hours or I do it in 8 hours. So it's incentivizing to me. Like I can do about 20 stops an hour. So if you're basing it off $60 an hour or $60 per parcel, and you break that down over an hour, that's...
Well, I'm not saying I'm saying per hour.
Okay.
Their operating costs are between $50 and $60 an hour.
So realistically, from my perspective, and that's just my perspective, I would say it costs me probably about $3 to deliver the package, and I get paid probably $7 to do it. So I make $4 per delivery, essentially, being the contractor.
Yeah, okay. I guess what I want to get at is, there's 33 days to go before Christmas. Canada Post is important still to this day during the Christmas season. I mean, what should happen here? You just let these people walk,
Canada Post, they pick up other courier contracts. Like, for me, example, I got a massive contract just recently since Canada Post has been on strike. And so my income and freight volume has drastically increased. So, unfortunately, I hate to say it, I'm one of the ones that benefit from Canada Post being on strike. And I've been through 3 Canada Post strikes. This is the third one. Every time they go on strike, all the other courier companies get really busy, pick up the slack, and then they all end up migrating back to Canada Post because Canada Post operates at such a cheaper cost to the customer than we can as a for-profit company. So it's a little more difficult for us to compete with that. Okay. And I get that. Even me getting the discount with the company, I still ship through Canada Post because it's cheaper for me. So.
Okay. Good to hear from you. Got to run. Thank you.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
And on Friday, we follow your lead. Let's go to Emerson. You're on the air, Emerson. What do you want to talk about, Emerson?
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate your show as usual. Prime Minister Trudeau came out with a little Christmas gift for all of Canadians, which in the end is really nothing but a smoke mirror. He promises GST starting December 14th on Christmas trees and toys and certain other items. By the time December 14th rolls around, Rob, most people have their tree up. The other thing is, he's saying if you make just shy of $150,000 a year and you filed your income taxes appropriately, you get $250 in April. Why not give it to Canadians now in December when everybody's struggling? He might not even be the prime minister in April. We might have an election in the early spring and he's out. I'm not sure where he comes up with all these little gimmicks. And you know what I don't appreciate? I've seen him on Global. with Chrystia Freeland behind him. All she did was kept bobbing her head back and forth like, yeah, we're giving you something great. Really, at the end of the day, I hope Canadians realize the only difference between Justin Trudeau and the Titanic is the Titanic had a band. He's going down, and he's going real quick. Nothing can change people's mind about that guy. He has really lost the faith and the trust of the Canadian people. So, Rob, I just want to say, really, why don't you give people the money now that they need it? Stop playing all these little musical chairs, and let's get on with life, this little privileged child that we're stuck with for the next few months. Thank you. God bless you, and have a beautiful weekend. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emerson. Let's go to... I've never heard that. The only difference between Mr. Trudeau and the Titanic is the Titanic had a band. That's a pretty good line.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Don. That is a good one, isn't it, David? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well done. We may steal that from time to time. Don, on the air in Calgary. Go ahead, Don. What do you want to talk about today, Don?
Hi, Don. Rod, thanks for taking my call. No, I just wanted to know there's a company here in Alberta. They're setting up natural gas service stations throughout Alberta and into BC. It's a major trucking outfit. They have a lot of trucks, and they're changing all their trucks to natural gas. They actually have some companies somewhere going to build natural gas engines for trucks. And I noticed they built in Calgary. It's right across from the City of Calgary bus barns, and you got a lot of buses parked there. And they have quite a number of buses that are on natural gas. And I'm a trucker in Calgary. In the last few weeks, I see quite a few service trucks, like 3 tons, 5 tons. They're going to natural gas now. Yeah, it's quite interesting. And I mean, natural gas is we have good supply in Canada, and it works very well, and you do get decent mileage with it. And it's, they're talking about clean energy. Well, natural gas is quite clean to burn.
Okay, let me ask you, is it much cheaper than diesel? Is it significantly cheaper?
Sure
are there big savings?
I don't know how that. Okay. Didn't dig into that much about it, but it must be because this is a major trucking outfit, and I think they got about 300 trucks, so it's got to be economical, or they wouldn't be doing it. And I know part of it is for the environment too. That's part of it for sure.
Okay. Now, are these long haul trucks, sir?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
There. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. All right. I don't know anything about it, obviously. Thank you for raising it today, though. Very interesting. Thank you. To Ken up next on the line. Hi there, Ken. What's on your mind, Ken? Go ahead.
I just don't understand why it took the government so long to initiate an audit on this Trans Mountain pipeline. It's
it has not. It has not initiated. It has not. Just to be clear, it has not initiated an audit. Okay. The Parliamentary Budget Officer is recommending that the Auditor General look at it because the original cost was supposed to be $7.5 billion, and it's estimated now to have cost taxpayers because it was nationalized $38 billion.
Yeah, well, if you go back on Trans Mountain Pipeline's website when they restarted back in 2019. The budget was higher for the pipeline, but they had completed their plus or minus 10% estimate, at 9.6. They went to the CER, they got their toll for carrying costs for the pipeline and everything. And so for it to go that far, especially considering that 2019, when they restarted the pipeline, the majority of the pipe had already been purchased. They had contracts for everything. So the only thing that was missing, obviously, was the construction side of it. And pipelines are the easiest energy construction projects going. Engineering simple, construction simple. So I don't know how it got so large and why it would take so long for them to even consider initiating this. But this is something that should have been happening years and years ago.
Okay. Well, all it would take really is a request from Parliament for the Auditor General to do a report and go do some digging on it. And you'd like to see that, sir?
Oh, absolutely. I sent requests to my MP asking them to make a request to get this thing going because it's just I as a taxpayer,
it's mind-boggling.
I'm shocked. Yeah, I think of all the, healthcare and infrastructure and everything else that didn't get built because obviously this went into the pockets of contractors. The entire project, the construction, the contracting, it was this project, it needed to be built. I'm a huge proponent. I support the pipeline project itself. However, this is a project where 100% of the people on the project were contractors themselves. There were no employees on this thing. I mean, it was just doomed to failure from the beginning. They had no processes. Okay, they had no procedures. Yeah. So hopefully.
All right. Time for the AG to get to work then. Ken, we got to run, Ken. Got to run. Thank you. You're welcome. Bye-bye. It's Talkback. A little tight on time, a little overtime.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
George in Calgary, you're on the Friday Free for All Talkback. Go ahead, George. What's on your mind?
I enjoy Dr. Lee's comments. I disagree sometimes with what he says, but it was sort of interesting. And this is just a side bit about the Canada Post piece. And I did hear the part where he said it was $55 to $60 for Canada Post for parcels and driver and truck and everything else, and then it was $45 for one of the an hour for one of the people that, or one of the other companies and stuff like that.
Yes.
And then that it was really the gig economy that is tough to compete against, which he was saying it was around $25 an hour. And my point, and I would just love to see what his thoughts were on this next time you ever chat with him on Canada Post, is I'm looking at the middle class again, and this is one of the things, so this is the tangent on this, is again, all these people are going to be laid off. They're going, obviously they can't compete, so they're going to be laid off. So now we got a whole bunch of people that were middle class. They're going to be scrambling to find other jobs. And what's happening here is we got the gig economy, and there's I don't know how they manage, because it's basically, there's no pension, there's no benefits, there's nothing. They basically, and you see who's driving these vehicles. It's usually, and I'm not, nothing against them.
No, but it's newcomers, right? It's newcomers.
It's newcomers, and so all they're doing is they're just trying to find. So what's happening is our whole economy, like for middle class, we keep on losing that piece there, right?
Yes. No, it's a fantastic point that you've raised. Are we debasing, not only ranks of the middle class, but also, hard fought for labor standards, right?
Exactly.
These gig, a lot of the, these gig companies, the Ubers and the Skip the Dishes, they don't feel that they have to pay things like minimum wage or provide things like, workplace compensation or paid vacations or contribute to CPP or EI or any of these things, because they view these people as, well, do they even view them as workers or just dollar signs? I don't know. I think it's a very valid point that you raise. Some things, when it comes to being a worker in Canada, and I'm a right of center guy, but some things have to be non-negotiable.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Hour number 2, final hour of the week for us here on Talkback. Love to hear from you today. We're wide open on topics. Open line, open topic at 1-833-668-2577. David, the list of items for this GST holiday.
Yeah.
A bit of a few head scratchers on here, I have to say.
Oh, yeah.
Like alcoholic beverages, okay. Wine, beer, ciders, coolers up to 7% alcohol by volume. Now, the wine, of course, not 7% alcohol by volume. Somebody actually called the Department of Finance to clear that up, because people were like, 7% wine? Who wants to drink wine with 7%? Right? Yep. Okay. Don't be fooled by that. Candies, including Candy floss, one of the life's essentials, Dave. Candy floss, chewing gum, chocolate, fruit seeds, nuts, or popcorn coated or treated with candy, chocolate, honey, molasses, sugar syrup, and artificial sweeteners. Salty snacks, including chips, crisps, puffs, curls, sticks, popcorn, brittle pretzels, as though there are any other kind, brittle pretzels, and salted nuts and seeds. Okay. Granola products, because you have to keep the hipsters happy, Dave. You got to put the granola products there. Why am I picturing nose rings and Doc Martens? Snack mixtures that contain cereals, nuts, seeds, dried fruits, or other edible products. This is all on the list, okay? You imagine you're running a store and you've got to reprogram your point of sale terminal. Ice lollies, juice bars, ice waters, ice cream, ice milk, sherbet, frozen yogurt or frozen pudding, including non-dairy substitutes, because we cannot forget, David, the lactose intolerant. What about the lactose intolerant?
They have rights too. Yeah.
Yes. They need a break too, Dave. Okay. It's probably even more expensive for the lactose intolerant these days. Fruit bars, rolls or drops or similar fruit-based snack foods, cakes, muffins, pies, pastries, tarts, cookies, donuts, brownies, and croissants with sweetened filling or coating. Pudding, including flavored gelatin, mousse, flavored whipped dessert product, or any other product similar to pudding. It says that. It says that.
Similar
any
to
other product similar to pudding. Hey, is this pudding? No, sir. But it's similar to pudding.
It's close enough. It's kind of like pudding.
Close enough. It's kind of like pudding. Prepared salad sandwiches, platters of cheese, cold cuts, fruits, vegetables, other arrangements of prepared food, like the Christmas party platters. Dave.
Yeah, exactly.
No GST. Save the GST. Food or beverages heated for consumption, beverages dispensed at the place where they are sold, and those bought as part of a catering service. So that's all under food and drink. Then there are children's items and games, children's clothing, garments up to girl size 16. Sorry if it's 17, 5% more for you. Boys size 20, baby bibs. Socks, hosiery, hats, mittens, gloves, scarves, and shoes, all for children. Children's diapers, children's car seats, children's toys designed for children under the age of 14, and jigsaw puzzles. The all-essential video game consoles.
Oh, yes.
What are they going for these days?
Oh, gosh.
Brand new video game console, $500, $600, right?
In that neighborhood, $500-$600.
Yeah. Controllers and physical editions of video games. Physical editions of video games. A lot of games are downloaded now, right?
Yeah.
Like if you bought the new Call of Duty, you wouldn't go to the store and buy Call of Duty. You would just download it, right?
I believe that's correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Then there's print newspapers.
Sure.
Gotta help the struggling newspaper business. Printed books and audiobooks. And finally, Christmas trees, real or artificial, but noticeably absent from the list, David. Not decorations for the Christmas tree, because that would just be ridiculous.
Well, you got to draw a line somewhere. I mean, they can't pay for everything, Rob. Come on.
In effect for 2 months, starting on the 14th of December, ending the 15th of February, and then sometime in the new year, people earning up to $150,000 net income as defined by the CRA. 18 million in line for this. A check one time only of $250. Big money giveaway, 6.3 billion in all. So any thoughts on that? That is your exemption list from the GST coming into effect in about 3 weeks from now. Kevin in Calgary, thank you for waiting, Kevin. You're on the air, sir. What is on your mind?
Hi, how are you, Rob?
I'm good, Kevin. Thanks for calling. What do you want to talk about?
Trudeau,
okay. What about him? I've heard of him.
I have to salute him for having the guts to arrest Netanyahu when he comes.
Oh, really? Okay. I disagree with that, sir. Yeah.
But I respect your opinion, but different opinion anyway here. I think Netanyahu would do enough damage to the Gaza Strip. A lot of kids, a lot of children and women are dying.
Yes. Yeah, war is terrible, sir. The war is terrible. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, that's.
Now, this is, of course, this is an ally of Canada, a longtime ally of Canada, Israel, sir. That's a brutal attack, as you know.
Doesn't give
brutal terrorist
the right
attack.
To kill. That's my opinion.
I appreciate that opinion, sir. We know, of course, that Hamas, part of its operating procedure is to hide among the civilian population in Gaza. You understand that, right? Making it very difficult to try and target that Iranian proxy terror army without civilian casualties. Very difficult.
Yeah, that's a good point there. It's like the cops killing all the hostages just to get to one bandit.
Mm. Yes. Well, it would be, there could be some progress, of course, if Hamas would give up those hostages that they took some 13 months ago. No. Can you imagine the terror that those people are living in now, those hostages that were taken 13 months
I agree
ago,
with that. I hope,
away from their family? I interviewed the family. I interviewed the aunt of one of those hostages, and just a few weeks later, unfortunately, that woman was killed. They murdered her, and yet you would suggest that it's Mr. Netanyahu who should be arrested.
Yeah, well, it's a terrible thing, but anyways, Christmas is coming. Peace on earth.
Yes, that's a good message to end our call with, sir. We can disagree without being disagreeable.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Wide open on the phone lines today at 1-833-668-2577 because it is the Friday free-for-all. So we've been coming up with topics all week. Been a very busy week in the news business. If you want to raise something that's been in the news this week, by all means, if there's something you think should be in the news that you want to comment on, you can raise it here. Let's go to Afif in Waterloo. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Rob. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks. Go ahead.
Good. So I want to talk about Uber.
Uber. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So delivery driving, basically. So The only thing that they give anybody is insurance. So basically, we can get so we have to get our own insurance, but they'll insure us for $1 million, for liability causes. So if anybody hits us, they'll take that part. But that's the only thing that they do. Other than that, we have to work and get our money. And let's just say, if we deliver from 30 kilometers, how much would you earn? You should earn about $15, $20, right? Uber gives you.
I don't know. What's that?
So you have to work on your tips to hopefully the tips help you move up. So that's why it's kind of hard, but I mean that's their way.
It's their way. Yeah.
So that's all I said.
Can you make a living off of it?
Barely.
Barely?
Yeah, because gas. I have to pay $40 of gas every day.
Sure. Yeah.
And I work 7 days a week, so.
You're working 7 days a week. How many hours a day are you putting in?
10.
10 hours? Okay. So what's your day like? What time do you start?
I start at 9 or 10 a.m. and then finish around midnight.
Wow, well, that's more than a 10-hour day.
Yeah. So
you're putting in more than, and you're doing that 7 days a week.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I'm guessing this is your only job then.
Yeah, this is my only job because I've been looking for IT work, but I'm not able to get it because of the government. But yeah, so.
What do you mean you're not able to get it because of the government? What do you mean?
I mean, not because of the government, but because I've been trying to apply for a job and trying to get it, but there's not enough here within Kitchener-Waterloo. So I'm trying to apply everywhere else. Yeah, and I'm not sure where else to get to. And every time I go to the government, to ask him, hey, can you help me try finding a job? They're like, yeah, we only have labor jobs.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. So I don't know if you've ever done the calculation, and I know Uber has changed its model, how it pays its drivers. Have you been impacted by that?
Yeah, a lot actually, because they say that they'll increase your minimum for all the delivery, but no, I still haven't seen that because, like I said, I just delivered an order this morning for 32 kilometers, and I got $4 from the what's that called? Just from Uber price, and I got $40.
You got $4 from Uber.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah,
to drive 30 kilometers. Okay.
And then I got $40 for the tip wise. So.
Right. Okay. Now, let's say you work from 9 o'clock till midnight. Okay, 9 o'clock in the morning until midnight.
Yeah.
Like a good 15-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
How much would you make, say, on average for that whole 15 hours? Would you make $200, $300, something like that?
170, 180.
170, 180.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
Eh?
Yeah. So
you're making you're making 10, 11 bucks an hour, 10 or 11 bucks an hour, or something like that.
Yeah, 10 about let's go $12 an hour, almost.
$12 an hour.
Yeah.
And you're in Kitchener.
Yeah, sorry.
And you're trying to live in Kitchener on $12 an hour.
Yeah, I am.
Cheapers,
it's really hard to do it, but I'm doing my best. Yeah.
Well, God bless you, sir. You're the salt of the earth for at least trying. I hope things improve for you, Fifth. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your call. We'll stop here.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Donna in Calgary on the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about, Donna? What's happening?
Hi there. Good day. I was hoping you could clarify something for me.
Okay.
The Revenue Canada is not actually a government department. It's an agency that is
agency of the government, yes.
by the government.
Yes.
So how do they make their money?
Well, they are funded by the government. It's an agency of the government. Just like we have the Canadian Space Agency,
Okay. So I was wondering if it was a separate unit, not a government department, were they getting paid by a percentage of the taxes that they got?
No, nothing like that. No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You know how many people work there? I looked this up the other day just because I was curious.
How many?
You're going to be a little bit surprised. 59,000.
And I'm sure they get paid premium.
Yeah, well, they hire a lot of temporary staff. Yeah, they do.
Just seasonal, yeah.
Yeah, seasonal staff and whatnot. Yeah, but 59. It's the largest.
15.
Yeah, it's the largest department of the department agency of the government. 59,000 people work there.
Well, I guess they'd have to be because they sure get your taxes. They charge you interest when you owe them something, but they sure don't give you interest when. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They will haunt you till the to the ends of the earth. Canada Revenue Agency. I should say the good people at the Canada Revenue Agency, Donna. They're great people. We love the Canada Revenue Agency, don't we? Yes, we do. Okay, Donna. Thank you. Yeah. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye. Rob is on the line. Rob in Calgary. Thank you, Rob. Go ahead. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Rob. If you're probably, I guess, between 50 and 80 years old, I don't think you're really going to benefit by all these GST exempt items. Like you don't probably have anything to do with diapers, kids' toys. You know, if you don't drink, you're not going to benefit by the GST off the alcohol. I think they kind of dropped the ball. If they really want to help Canadians, they should have dropped the GST on electricity and home heating fuel for the winter.
Yes, or they could have. I mean, we already have a GST rebate program, right? So we know pretty well through the Canada Revenue Agency who is struggling and who is not struggling, because the GST rebate program it's means tested to deliver relief to people who need it most through those quarterly payments of the GST rebate. You could enhance that. You could say, well, in this quarterly payment, we're going to double it or we're going to triple it. Then it would be, targeted to the people who need it the most. For example, the Globe and Mail editorial points out today that with the removal of GST on the sale of wine, for example, I mean, this is not they looked up a certain brand of Dom Perignon, and it sells for $2,018. One bottle of champagne, $2,018. But as of December, it is going to be priced at $1,785. Now, that's part of this GST announcement. This is Christmas relief for the Canadian middle class struggling to make ends meet. I mean, does that sound like something that's progressive to you? They would call this progressive.
Well, and I firmly believe that the economy runs best if you keep the money in the people's pockets who earn it. And like I said, if they took it off at the pumps, and even if they wanted to, take an extra cent or two from the other taxes off the pumps, and keep that money in people's pockets, especially in the winter time when your gas and your gas, electricity, and all that is higher because it's cold and we're using more. The other thing I was going to say, we're a
little tight on time. You can hang on and I can bring you back on after the news, or we're going to have to wrap it up here. But we do have to stop right now or they're going to cut us off. It's Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Here with David Smith. David, yesterday we were talking, in addition to this GST holiday, we were talking about this idea that they have in the United States, Trump appointing Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to have this DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, right?
Yes, yeah.
They say they want to cut the number of employees in the U.S. federal government in half.
Right. 3
million people working for the U.S. government. They're going to try and cut it in half. I wish them well. So we have all told 367,000 people working just for the federal government. 367,000 people, David, working just for the federal government. That's the federal government's own figure. They publish a figure every year. The average compensation, salary, benefits, and pension for a full-time public servant in Canada. You want to take a stab at that one, Dave? How much do you figure?
On average?
Average with salary, benefits, and pension, all in.
100 grand?
125,300.
Wow. I wasn't even close.
That's the average, 125,300. Now that salary, benefits, and pension, that's from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. When you break it down by department or agency, as I mentioned to the call, 59,000 people working for CRA. That's the largest department or agency. The second largest is Employment and Social Development Canada, and almost 40,000 people work there. So that's 100, almost 1 in 4 workers work for those two places. And it's basically money in and money out. You have the Canada Revenue Agency collecting the taxes, and then you have the Employment and Social Development Agency and the 40,000 people working there. They manage programs like EI, CPP, Old Age Security, Canada Child Benefit, GST rebates. Basically, if you get a check from the government, that is not a refund check from the CRA, It comes from that department. Employment Social Development Canada. 39,089 employees worked there. Last time they did a head count. 39,000. Then you have 28,000 working for the Department of National Defense and 10,000 working for the RCMP. You have 10,000 people working for something called Shared Service Canada. Shared Services Canada. I forgot what they even did there. I had to look it up. Do you know what they do there? Shared Services Canada? Shared Services Canada.
No, couldn't tell you.
No, you don't even know, right? 10,000 people working there. They do all the IT for the government.
Oh, okay.
Of Canada. That's like they're all the IT people. 7,000 working at StatsCan. 7,000 working at Transport Canada. 20,000 working for the Department of Public Services and Procurement. We used to just call that Public Works. I don't know why they changed Public Services and Procurement. Public Works. 20,000 people, Dave. 20,000. 9,000 people working at Indigenous Services. 13,000 at Immigration, 10,000 at Health Canada, 14,000 at Fisheries and Oceans, 6,000 at Agriculture. As for men and women in uniform, we have 17,000 at the CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency, and 19,000 at Corrections Canada. And on it goes. And you add it up, it's 367,000 employees. And it has increased 40% since Mr. Trudeau came to office. Now, are your public services, have they improved by 40% in 9 years?
No.
The interesting thing is, David, that at the same time we have seen this ballooning of the public service, the money that is being spent on outside consultants, think of the big firms that you all know, the Price Waterhouse, the Deloittes, the McKinseys, that was, very controversial, all of those firms, that has also ballooned to almost the last figure that we saw, $17.7 billion. So the suggestion has been made by, for example, Sean Spear writing for the hub.ca. You take a chainsaw to this. You do what Trump is doing with Musk and Ramaswamy. You get somebody in there with savvy know-how, success in the private sector. You cut that monster down to size. I just found that interesting. Department of Government Efficiency. Who's up next here? Why don't we, let's see here on my list. Carrie? Is it Carrie? Ernie in Kitchener. Ernie. Yeah, go ahead, Ernie. Can't read my own handwriting here. Ernie, hi there. Are you with me?
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, good. Just talking about what you just even mentioned there, like it gives me some hope to see what's happening on the other side. But I've seen this before, and I'll put it in a way that, hopefully it's a little bit comical, but also kind of makes some sense here. I'm just flabbergasted how, just what you're talking about, all those companies there too and cutting funds. Well, the Arrive scam, like, man, I can't wait till I get my contract. I can make an app for the Canadian people, and then we don't have to tell anybody where that money went. You know what I mean? You have a license to steal. I've seen this before, and I think it was the movie Goodfellas, but at least these guys were gangsters, but now we're seeing it in Parliament. We have, you can change your identity and almost where you're from so you get some indigenous grants. You have all these scandals, and then when you're asked to show the documentation, the proof, you can just black out what you don't like, and hand it over, and nothing happens. And I felt for that caller earlier that called in, and you basically said, please look. You almost want to say, it's Friday, have a good day. You just felt so devastated. That's a little bit how I feel with all this stuff that's just happening, and nobody ends up in cuffs. And it's basically like you have a license to steal. As far as like the Trudy bucks go, I'll put it this way too with Goodfellas. I feel like Joel Pesci right now. I'm getting made. I'm pumped. I got my new suit on. I'm all excited. I'm getting a promotion. And then
didn't end well for him.
Yeah, and then that's what I'm saying. April 1st, there's the carbon tax. So you gave me, you got me the money to get me my brand new suit, and there we go. Rob, that's just what I got to say here right now about that.
All right, that's very well said, Ernie. Thank you. Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. That famous scene from Goodfellas. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, we'll be right back. Sorry, I just wanted to get that information out there. I think you should know stuff like that. When people are floating around the idea of, we should have our own Department of Government Efficiency. I'm Rob Snow. Be right back on the phone lines. Everybody who's on the line, you'll get on the air before we call it quits for the day. But we do have to stop right now. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Luke in Calgary up next. What's on your mind this week, Luke? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been kind of listening for the last week and a half on the Canada Post strike.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious. Did we say they're losing they lost $780 million last year?
Last year, yeah. They're on track to lose even more this year, yeah.
So that's more than $2 million a day.
Well, Luke, I don't know if you've been listening from the beginning of the show. The Canada Post management sent the media a statement today. In the third quarter, the company lost $315 million. Okay, so a quarter's 3 months, 90 days. They lost $3.5 million every day they were open in the third quarter.
$3 million a day.
$3.5 million a day.
Right, and so that's taxpayer money, though, is it not?
No, it's not taxpayer money. It's paid through the operations, the revenue that is raised by Canada Post internally.
Right, but how are they you can't lose $750 million.
Well, this is why the CEO, again,
right?
I will repeat this again. This is why the CEO went to Parliament and said, if we do not reform this business in a big way, we will run out of money within a year. We will have no money. We will be broke. We will be insolvent. He has told Parliament this.
You're right. So my question then is, how come we're not automating the whole system? Right? Like, I know it's obviously that's a massive undertaking, what I just said, but you have countless new subdivisions going up. They all have grocery stores and shopping centers going in. Why can't there be a 2,000 or like a 1,500 square foot or 2,000 square foot section of that grocery store or whatever mall set up that has a drive-through and an access point on the inside where you just pull up to the ATM like you do with the ATM at the bank, type in your code and get your mail.
Yeah, I don't know, sir.
I just don't understand that.
I don't have these answers. I don't know how. Like, I'm just a radio guy. I'm not equipped to recommend. How do you reform this company that is older than Canada itself and has 55,000 employees? What do you do? What do you do?
That's the problem, right? Is the employees have become too expensive for what the company is producing.
Right.
Right? Like, that's it at the end of the day. People aren't using it as much anymore. It has to be made much more efficient. Yeah. All the technology exists to automate the entire system.
Yeah.
And I don't have to tell you.
I don't have to tell you that the traditional news industry is in trouble, right? I'm in that industry. I have been let go twice in this industry. Why? Because the industry is much less profitable, if it's profitable at all, than it was before. So people lose their jobs. That's how it works in the private sector. I don't like the fact that people could lose their jobs at Canada Post. I would have sympathy for those people, just as I hope people would have sympathy for me if I lost my job. But obviously, this can't continue. We cannot have a post office employing 55,000 people that's losing 3.5 million people a day. Something has to give.
You know what you mentioned there, Rob, which I've kind of been said to my wife, is why aren't you doing your own podcast or vlog?
Well, my podcast is every day. This show's podcasted every day, sir. I'm already doing a podcast.
But your own private one, big guy. Get off the radio. You probably have enough followers.
I like being on the radio. I like my job.
Okay, I'm just saying. You know what I mean?
You say.
Start it up. I'll subscribe.
Okay,
but,
all right.
But
well, that's
one
subscriber.
I realize it's a lot of jobs that will be lost, and that there's no way to say that nicely. But the reality at the end of the day is, it's going under.
Yeah, it's going under.
It's going under. If we're going to keep the post service going, it's got to be automated.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Luke. I got to run.
Thank you.
Jody, can we take Jody's? Is it Jody? Yes. Hi, Jody.
Hey, hello, Rob, my fellow Maritimer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Where are you from?
Originally from northern New Brunswick, Campbellton.
Northern New Brunswick. Oh, Campbellton.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
The home of Peter Marr. But I just have a couple of issues there. First of all, I just cannot believe that Justin Trudeau said that he would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu, or I can't pronounce his name.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
I cannot believe that he actually he's such a coward. I mean, he's, of course he said he would go by international laws and stuff, but it just shows how much of a coward he is, that he has no backbone. Yeah. You know what I mean? The guy.
Well, plus, I guess what I find really interesting is how you would think that Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden would share the same kind of worldview. You know, they're progressive, liberal, democratic people, and Joe Biden was just like, yeah, we're not arresting Benjamin Netanyahu. That'd be ridiculous.
I know. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, the prime minister that we have of this country. And on the second one, for a laughing thing before I hang up, did you see the incident there where he was in the grocery store yesterday and he dropped that box of beer?
No, I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, he dropped a box of beer and it smashed on the floor, and he just looked at it and walked away. And then he was caught. Somebody had a picture, was filming him. He was in the booth, in the grocery store, and he was looking at himself in the phone, dancing back and forth.
Oh, really? Okay. No, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. But look, if you're worried about Benjamin Netanyahu, if he ever came to Canada, being arrested by Justin Trudeau, just remember, he would be part of the Canadian criminal justice system. He'd get out on bail within a couple of hours, sir.
There you go. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I'll talk to you later. Thank you for your call. Be right back. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Charlie? What's up, Charlie?
Good afternoon, Rob.
Hi there, Charlie.
Rob.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, Charlie. Go ahead.
Okay, the post office. All these vehicles with Post Canada written on them, they all run on fuel, gas, diesel, propane. When Trudeau put the carbon tax on fuel, this really hurt the post office. They really felt the blow. Like a lot of other Canadian companies in the transportation business, they all hurt. Trudeau helped push the post office where it's at. And as far as the old age people, I don't believe they're going to get a $250 check like the rest of the people. No. This is Canadian taxpayers' money, and Trudeau's just handed it out like it was nothing to it. Look at the deficit we got. We should be paying $250 everybody in Canada on a deficit. Bring the interest rate down. That would bring our taxes down. Rob, are you still there?
All good points, Charlie. All good points. I'm going to wrap it up, our conversation for this week. Get very little argument from me. Yeah, you have to have worked in 2023, David. So, that's part of this $250. If you didn't work, you're not getting $250. If you're retired, you're not getting $250. If all you have is CPP, OAS, and GIs, you're not getting $250. Too bad, so sad. But somebody who made $149,999 in 2023, they're getting $250.
Yep.
Make it make sense. Andre. Hello, Andre.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, Andre.
Love your show.
Thank you.
And how much time do I have?
Maybe a minute.
Thank you. So I'm going to go a little faster with this. Is about the strike. I've heard today that striking, you have to hit people where it hurts. I don't agree with it, but my vision has changed, just like many times by listening to the shows, is about the truck convoy. When they made noise in Ottawa, I guess making noise, they want to be heard. I don't like that because that's very rude to the citizens. But then Mr. Knight, who's in jail, I think Trudeau, before he does the walk away in the snow, I think he should give time serve to Mr. Knight, because I'm not vaccinated and I'm free with commission paper, and I would like to say thank you on that. Thanks, Rob, for your show.
All right. Well, thank you. It kind of lost me at the tail end there. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. I think he may be talking about Pat King and the verdict today, some 3 years later, guilty of mischief for his role in the Freedom Convoy. And I guess Tamara Leach and her co-accused, that has yet to be settled. Yes, David was Landers. There's still no verdict in that.
Yep, still making its way
on.
Still like making its way.
Longest mischief trial in probably the history of Canada. It's just insanity. That the courts are even dealing with this all these years later, and these are the verdicts, David. Mischief convictions. How much time are they going to do for this, if at all? Imagine the costs that the government has spent pursuing these individuals. I'm not saying they're angels and that I supported everything that happened during the Freedom Convoy. I was a local radio guy, caused a lot of disruption to the people in our town. It did. Just the money spent on these prosecutions, you have to wonder if is it really in the interest of justice. Okay, that's it for us for this week. I'm away on Monday. David is your commander-in-chief on the radio on Monday. I'll be back on Tuesday. The latest breaking news coming up next on News Radio.